So, I enjoy bowling. So much so that I used to be in a league. I wasn't terribly good at it, but I still had fun. So, why in the world am I telling you this? Is Spider the video game a bowling game? Not even close, but I do want to explain how I found out about this game, and it involves the league. One of my teammates, Darla, cleaned houses. She knew I was a gaming connoisseur and told me that she found a game disc under a bed she cleaned and asked if I wanted it. A mystery game to add to my collection? Damn right I'll take it. So the next week she brought this in. Was this seriously a real product? It looked like a bootleg, and the CD itself looked like someone made it and the label and an old version of Nero. In any case, I brought it home and tried it in both my PS2 and PS3, but of course it worked in neither. So it simply sat on my shelf for 10 plus years. I did bing it to see what it was about, to find some unexpected positive reviews. I also found the game featured a cyborg weaponized spider that held a human's mind. Color me intrigued. Fast forward to 2022. Emulation is a thing. I was glancing at my game collection, trying to figure out what I wanted to play, and as I brushed the dust off the shelves, I realized it's been a while since playing something on the PS1, and Spider the video game caught my eye. I downloaded a PS1 emulator and gave it a go. The game opens up with an interesting cinematic starring a scientist in his lab. A bunch of assumed rivals barge on in and assault the lab. From what I can gather, all of the cybernetic insects that the scientist was working on were unleashed in the world. Somehow, in all the chaos, the spider is the good guy and absorbs the consciousness or soul or something of the scientist. The spider then sets out to get revenge. It's a bit of a strange story, sure, but all it's there for is to set the stage for the platforming gameplay. That's right, Spider the video game is a platformer, and oddly enough, a 2D one. You control the weaponized insect and travel through quite a few themed stages. These stages take place in so-called worlds, like a lab, museum, and sewer, with the levels each taking place in those zones. The goal to completing each stage is simple. Find one of the cubes that contain a circuit sphere. I don't know why you're looking for these, but hey, it works. There are 2 hurdles to completing these levels, and as you can guess, they are the enemy insects and the environmental hazards. Both of these are equally as dangerous. For being a freaking robot spider, you'd think that the inventor would give it better armor, but instead, you get 2 health points, so death will probably happen frequently. Not like it's really a big deal though. Lives are fairly plentiful, and if you die or even get a game over, you just start the stage again from the start, as there are no mid-level checkpoints. In fact, the only difference between dying and getting a game over is that on a game over, you simply lose whatever atoms you had collected. Is this a big deal? Nah. Atoms simply act as the collectible. Getting 100 of them nets you an extra life. Atoms, along with standalone extra lives and weapons, respawn upon death, so it's actually possible to continually fill a level, but still be positive on lives obtained. The enemies you encounter are somewhat varied, and some are more of a hassle than others. The wasps can be difficult to strike without being hit yourself, due to the limited range of your main slashing attack. Same goes for the hopping crickets. You will eventually learn the best ways to fight them, and even figure out what weapon works best. All of the weapons you pick up are lost upon death, and come in several types, typically categorized by the front legs or back legs. You can have 2 weapons per side, easily switching between them using shoulder buttons. The rear weapons typically function sort of like mines, and I found them to be of very limited use. The front weapons, on the other hand, are infinitely better. There is a poison attack that does extra damage for a second or so, and an electrical beam that seeks out its target. Ammo does seem to deplete quickly, so I found that tapping circle instead of holding it works best. The weapon you really want to be on the lookout for is the boom, short for boomerang. There is no ammo limit to it, so it can be used until you override it with a different weapon, or until you die. Weapon pickups aren't exactly plentiful, so dying is probably going to be the likely method of losing the boomerang. At least if you lose a weapon you really wanted, you can revisit stages to reacquire them. The whole point of replaying stages isn't really for the collectibles, but instead because most levels have more than one endpoint, denoted by the color-coded markers on the level selection screen. Not all of the circuit sphere thingies need to be collected in order to finish the game, but if you're a perfectionist, the option is there. To help navigate the platforms, you can utilize a web to dangle from the bottoms of objects. Obviously, being a spider, you're not constricted to just the tops of them. Most areas allow you to walk around any ledge, so using the web can be useful when trying to figure out where to jump to next, or to grab one of the collectibles just out of reach. You can swing from the web as well, although honestly, the web itself isn't entirely useful from what I can tell. It's too slow to be a potential hazard dodging technique, and I've only really used it to grab items and weapons on the underbellies of platforms. And that's really all there is to the game. Go through the stages, find one of the exits, swipe at the baddies. It's really a simple game to learn, but it's by no means simple to finish. In fact, I still haven't completed it yet. I can get near the end, but the difficulty does ramp up steadily, and by the end, you have to even fight a few confusing camera transitions when you want to go around corners. That usually didn't get me killed in itself, but there were a few jumps that made me want to stop playing immediately. But I kept trying anyway. Like, how are you supposed to know to jump down here and land in the exit, knowing that death was below you if you missed? Again, thank the heavens that lives are plentiful. Let's say you need to stop. The game does utilize a save system if you owned memory cards, but nicely enough, there's also a simple password system that you can take advantage of, just in case you didn't want to tie up one of the blocks with the game. I don't believe that there's any disadvantage to using the password other than the simplicity of not having to write down and then input passwords. The graphics look pretty good for a PS1 game. Granted, I'm using an emulator, so actual hardware might look a bit different, but either way, the game takes full advantage of the 2D gameplay in a 3D world and makes every stage believable. Test tubes in the lab, security monitors in the museum, stuff like that. I never thought any stage looked dull. The audio department is a mixed bag, however. The music is fantastic, comprised of great techno and rock MIDI tracks that fit perfectly with the gameplay and stages. The sounds, on the other hand, feel like they were ripped directly from a Genesis game, especially the noises that you make when you hang from a platform via a web. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I would have expected a little something different for a web sound, like, I don't know, a Spider-Man style swishing sound or something. Maybe swish is the wrong word for the effect I'm thinking of, but I'm sticking with it. Spider the video game is surprisingly a solid game for my collection, and I'm happy Darla found me this odd bootleg looking disc so I could look at the game now. The gameplay is as engrossing as any other 2D platformer, and the 3D environments make nice use of the PlayStation hardware. If the game looks to be your cup of tea, you can get a copy of it on Amazon for roughly... oh. It's not exactly cheap now, is it? Well, it's still fun to play if you do get it. Final score? 5 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.